Welcome to Tech Blueprint, a window that lets you know the latest technology news in the world. Remember Trump, who threatened to impose a 245% punitive tariff? Now, his wishful thinking is being ruthlessly shattered by reality. Why? Because China has long said that it will not continue to follow the United States after the tariff is increased to 125%, because most of the trade between the two sides has actually ended under high tariffs. Faced with China's calm response, the United States itself couldn't stand it. U.S. stocks plummeted again, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average falling 1.73%, the S&P falling 2.24%, and the Nasdaq falling 3.07%. Chip giant NVIDIA plunged 6.87%. And AMD fell 7.35%. This is the direct consequence of Trump's tariff war, and the U.S. economy has begun to suffer from the self-injury effect. In fact, Trump's wishful thinking in this tariff war is very shrewd. By pressuring China, the Big East, to pay protection fees, other countries will naturally follow suit. China must provide cheap goods to curb U.S. inflation and continue to buy U.S. bonds to reduce the pressure on U.S. debt. In this way, the hegemony of the U.S. dollar can continue in the world, and the crisis of U.S. debt will also collapse. Unfortunately, reality has dealt him a heavy blow. China has not only implemented precise countermeasures, but also accelerated the promotion of the domestic substitution strategy, which has completely disrupted Trump's deployment. More importantly, under China's demonstration, countries around the world are not in a hurry to bow to the United States. U.S. Treasury Secretary Bensant was as anxious as an ant on a hot pot, publicly promising that the first country to comply can get the most favorable conditions. Isn't this clearly telling the world that no one cares about them? The most ironic thing is that Trump had to meet with Japanese Minister of Economic Revitalization Akazawa Ryo in person. This kind of diplomatic move with a huge disparity in level is simply incredible in diplomatic etiquette. The U.S. president met with a Japanese vice ministerial official. This can only show how urgently he needs a successful case to prove that his tariff strategy works. At the same time, Federal Reserve Chairman Powell publicly sang against Trump. He sternly warned that these unprecedented high tariffs will lead to higher inflation and slower growth. This is a clear scapegoating. If the economy falls into recession in the future, all the responsibility lies with Trump. Not only will the Fed not cut interest rates to save the market, it even hints that it may raise interest rates to curb inflation. Following Japanese investors, even American investors have begun to sell U.S. bonds. Nasdaq has fallen into a bear market, and the dollar hegemony and the stability of U.S. bonds are being challenged at the same time. The inconsistency of domestic and foreign attitudes has also led to frequent reversals of Trump's policies. California, a giant with an economic output comparable to the world's fifth largest economy, has now officially filed a lawsuit against Trump. California Governor Newsom even criticized the Trump administration's abuse of tariff policies as illegal, causing serious chaos and damage to the U.S. economy. Worse, another 16 states in the United States are ready to follow up and sue Trump. A nationwide anti-Trump alliance is taking shape. In sharp contrast to the chaos in the United States, China's performance has impressed the world. Experts interviewed by the New York Times commented that China is a serious person and is not as blindly reckless as Trump. American comedian Costa pointedly joked, "Trump, you can mess with Canada and Mexico, but don't mess with China. You wrote The Art of the Deal, but they wrote The Art of War." As time goes by, the difficulties brought about by the tariff war will only deepen. Famous American economist Sachs has declared, "The U.S. leadership is over, and the world needs China to step up and lead." Trump's performance in the first 100 days in office is shocking. Domestic prices soared. People complained, allies were alienated, and international credibility fell to the bottom. The conclusion of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce is even more straightforward. Tariffs are causing a devastating blow to thousands of small businesses. While Trump is obsessed with suppressing China, China is continuing to expand its economic and trade cooperation with other parts of the world and continuously enhancing its global influence. The contest between strength and wisdom has already been clear. It seems that there is not much time left for Trump to solve the dilemma. Trump's tariff war is making the United States reap what it has sown. U.S. stocks plummeted, allies were alienated, and domestic lawsuits were everywhere. While China broke his calculations with precise countermeasures and domestic substitution strategies, the world refuses to bow